Hey everyone, today I am back out here to do another AR-15 magazine torture test. Today what I'm going to be doing is using some magazines that were once again furnished by RageQuit 003, who's also here on YouTube. If you guys are into competition, 3-gun, any of that stuff, he does some really cool videos down where he's at, doing different courses of fire down there. And he's like, fully kitted up, so he's doing a lot more, I guess, competition-wise than I am. So check out his videos, good dude, and again, he's the one who supplied the magazines for this test. I believe he ordered them through Primary Arms. So these are the M3 Generation 3 PMAGs for AR-15s, and these are the new version that was, I guess, adopted by, was it the Marine Corps, who just finally approved the use of PMAGs, which I guess welcome to the party. I know people were using them for a long time. It's just now they're officially being issued, I guess, by the military. So anyway, I'm going to be conducting this test similar to the other two tests, if you guys have seen them, with the Lancer L5 magazines as well as the Hex mags. I've been using the Gen 3 PMAGs for a long time. I have a lot of confidence that this will do pretty well, but we'll see how it does through this testing. And I just want to say before we even get started with the testing that I know that this is by no means meant to be an exhaustive torture test. The real test is to run thousands and thousands of rounds through these magazines, through classes and dirt, rain, whatever. What I'm trying to do is, in as few rounds as possible, get a rough idea of the reliability of these magazines and their durability. So that's what I'm going to be attempting to do here once again today. Some of the testing protocol might have to be changed, but I'll talk about that as we go. And the rifle that I'm going to be using is different because I've changed out some of the, I changed out the stock on the SBR that I've been using, and since I want to make sure there's thousands of rounds through that PDW stock before I trust it implicitly, I'm going to be using my BCM rifle, which hasn't been on the channel for a while, but you guys know I've got probably 5,000 rounds through that thing. Trust it 100%, and so that's what I'm going to be using to test out these magazines today. So I'm going to save one of them in the wrapper in case one of them just craps out on me right off the bat. So I'm going to open up one of these, load it with 30 rounds, do a quick mag dump to make sure that this is going to function under normal circumstances before we go too deep into the more aggressive testing. So let's go ahead and dump some rounds out of this mag. So just FYI for the testing today, I'm just using 55 grain full metal jacket. Theoretically, should run with this just fine. I've run this type of ammo before, so I know this ammo goes well in this gun. See if it'll go through 30 rounds without any issues. Alright, as expected, handled that just fine. So let's go ahead and step it up and do the water test. Alright, so here I have about 2 liters of water. Now this is the same bucket that I've been using for the other test, so it is a little bit dirty, but honestly this should be a non-issue anyway. So if anything, I trust this magazine, so I'm just going to go ahead, get it completely submerged and try to get all the air bubbles out of it. And once that happens, I'm going to pull it straight out, shove it in the rifle, and then we'll dump 10 rounds and make sure that water, again, is not going to be an issue. So it looks like all the air has been purged from the magazine, so I'm going to go ahead, just take it straight out of this water and straight into the rifle. Alright, let's get this water a little bit more dirty. So last time I did these tests, I had the fortune of it being summertime and there being a whole bunch of loose dirt. I've got this dirt from the same area, however, now there's a lot more grass that's been growing in it and it's a little bit more damp. So it may or may not make it a little bit more likely to cause stoppages. I guess we'll have to see. This is obviously the least subjective, or excuse me, the least objective test, because every time it's going to be a little bit different based on what kind of particulates get in there. But this water is definitely going to be nasty. So I'm going to go ahead and load this magazine up. What do you guys think? Should I leave this in there? go ahead and load the magazine up and then get it submerged in this dirty, dirty water. I think I just use the magazine to help stir this up, because why not? It's kind of the point of this anyway, right? So make sure, get the bubbles out, get it full of the dirty water. Again, this is obviously the least scientific test. I expected to do okay based on the consistency of this as it feels right now. Obviously the bigger test will be after this one when we let it dry, but I'll talk about that more once we get there. Went ahead and moved the camera around. I wanted to protect the anonymity of some fellow range goers, so now you'll be able to watch me take the magazine straight out of the dirty water, put it into my BCM here, and then dump all, what was it, 20 rounds, however many rounds. I think it was 20 rounds. So yeah, let's go ahead and do it. All right, get some of the grass off from the top area. All right, that worked as I expected. So let's go ahead, load this magazine back up, fill it with the dirty water, but then this time let the dirty water dry. All right, so I have this magazine loaded up to 15 rounds. Again, I'm gonna just use the magazine to stir up the sediment at the bottom, make sure everything is nice and dirty, and then set it in here, get the bubbles out. All right, so now that the bubbles are out, again, just kind of swirl this around in here, make sure sediment's getting nice and in there. So again, now that this is nice and soaked in, let's go ahead, take it out, and then I'm just gonna just toss this out in the grass and let it dry. I'll shed one round. I'm gonna go put that round in and then let it dry. All right, so I just picked the mag up off the ground. It's pretty much dry at this point. Try to see if you can hear how gritty this thing has gotten. Pretty gritty, not super gritty though, but we'll see how it feeds. Because it's a little bit cooler than it was last time I was doing these videos, I went ahead and just filmed an entire video while I let this thing dry out. But let's go ahead and see if it'll feed these rounds. Again, I think there were 15 of them, but I guess we'll count them together as they come out. All right, no issues whatsoever. So let's go ahead and move on to the next test, which I believe is the drop test. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and do the drop test with this thing. It's still a little bit damp from the bottom from the last test we did, but I'm gonna go ahead and just drop it in a couple different orientations. I have it loaded to 20 rounds. I also have a camera down at my feet that'll hopefully capture anything interesting if anything interesting happens. I kind of doubt anything interesting is gonna happen, but we'll see. So first, I'm just gonna go ahead and drop it rounds facing away from me with the floor plate down. And again, from about shoulder height, about 6'2", so for what that's worth. All right. No rounds came out, which is nice. Definitely some blemishing at the bottom of the magazine, but oh, it's even just kind of wiping away. So some very minor blemishing. Next, I believe is, yep, so I'm going to drop them rounds facing up, again from about shoulder height. Okay, so that time it actually kind of rotated on its way down out here where the shoulder is. It got some blemishing as well as back here kind of behind the feed lips. Again, nothing too crazy. So next I'm going to drop it up on its side, rounds facing away from me. Ooh. So ooh. That one, it actually started to rotate on its way down. So it kind of hit this little shoulder right here. So again, that's a little bit of blemishing. I'm not seeing any cracks or anything like that. Definitely no damage to the feed lips or anything. So now, speaking of the feed lips, I'm going to go ahead and drop it directly on the feed lips, and I got the rounds facing away from me. Make sure I'm dropping it in frame for this camera down here. Wow. Alright. No rounds came out. Just, again, some blemishing on the feed lips. I'm going to go ahead and shoot the rounds that are in here. And then before we move on to the next test, I'll go ahead and take some close-up pictures so you guys can see what I'm talking about by the blemishing. Again, just really, really minor stuff. Let's go ahead and shoot this magazine. I don't expect there to be any issues, but we'll see. Yep, got all of them just fine. So before I move on to the next test, I'll take some close-up pictures so you guys could see, again, what that blemishing looks like, but it's hardly anything. Alright, so I have the magazine down here on the concrete. Unfortunately, I don't have my RAM charger with me today. It's having some mechanical issues. So I'm going to be using my Honda Civic, which is significantly lighter. So I'm just going to run over it a few times. I know it's not the same as driving it over with a heavier vehicle, but I got to do what I can with what I got. So I'm going to run over it a couple times lengthwise, flip it, run it over a couple times horizontally, load it up with 20 rounds. After we run it over, we're going to run it back over to the range right here, shoot it, and make sure that nothing crazy happened. Okay. Alright, so before I go ahead and shoot, I'm even just going to show you guys what happened here. Again, it looks just like it's looks like it's just some blemishing on this side of the magazine. You can see here where the magazine lock is. Again, back here against the back of the magazine, and up here in the front, and kind of all the way down the magazine. The side that was down on the concrete looks like it bore the brunt of it, and the side with the tires was just fine. Again, I know it's not the same as driving over it with an almost 2-ton Dodge Ram Charger, but I don't know. If you guys want to pay to fix it, then that's on you. So let's go ahead and see if it'll run the 20 rounds without any issues. Again, not expecting it, but let's see. Yep, as expected. So there's one more test that I like to do, so let me go ahead and get set up for that. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me out here today. Last test I'm going to be doing is shooting the magazine, and I feel it's only appropriate to use a Lancer mag to do it, since so far those have performed the best in testing. Although so far this mag has also been performing pretty much just as well. So actually better, because it didn't bend the feed lips when it got run over, and it functioned just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot it now. Unfortunately, because of the way I have to have it propped up, I have to shoot it from down here to make sure my rounds still impact safely into the berm. But I got a downrange camera, so hopefully we should be able to see anything interesting that happens, just using the same ammo, 55 grain full metal jacket to shoot it that I've been shooting out of it all day. So let's see how it handles getting shot. All right, looks like we hit it, so let's go see what happened. So this is kind of the result I expected, because I've already shot one of these Gen 3 mags before. It just punched a clean hole in it. However, the area that I hit it wasn't where the spring was. So at least to increase the odds of hitting the spring, and also to maybe hit the window, I'm going to shoot this thing again and shoot it through the window. I know that this thing is going to function just fine, because it just punched a clean hole through both sides. So I'm going to try to hit this window again. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot this thing twice. So I'm going to go get it reset up, and we'll shoot another round at it. All right, so we're back down here. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can hit it in the windowed section, and maybe hit the spring. All right, see if I got lucky on that one. All right, so we shot it the second time, and I did hit it in the window. I hit it right at the junction back here between where the window meets the body of the magazine again. And kind of like I expected, it did break out a little bit more. Hold it by my face so it'll focus. Of the window, especially on the exit side. However, again, I still missed the spring. Pretty much went right in between it. So I think this thing will still function. However, I think there's a little bit of that window in here, so let me try to pop this floor plate off and see if we can recover it. Oh, this thing's nice and dirty. See if you can see inside that mag, nice and dirty. I'm not sure where that window section went. It might have fallen out, but could have just been the rustling of all the dirt and gunk in there that made me think it was the window. So still takes down. I'm sure I could clean this thing up and it would run as good as new, minus having these extra gotta push the little floor plate so it locks back in place again. There we go. Got it locked back into place. Just had to use something a little skinnier like a bullet tip to get back in there. So I have all the confidence in the world that I could just load this thing back up and it'll run just fine, especially if I were to clean it out. Now, again, shooting with a 5.56 full metal jacket, probably not the hardest, most strenuous test. If I were to shoot at it with like an AK or like a 308, that might be, you know, a little bit more intense. But again, I think I've demonstrated a point here. This thing functioned just as good, if not maybe even slightly better than the Lancer mag. Because just as a reminder, in case any of you have forgotten, or in case you haven't seen the Lancer mag video, the steel feed lips actually got crimped a little bit by my ram charger when I ran it over, so it would not feed the last round. Would feed every single round before that, and after that just fine. And actually when I shot it, it almost looked like it was a self-healing hole, because it was a little tiny pinhole where the actual hole was, and it just sealed back up around it. It was actually pretty impressive. But again, I couldn't feed that last round because of the steel feed lips. Now again, that was running it over with my ram charger and not my Civic, so the significant weight difference there. But again, this thing performed about as well as I expected it to. So in my opinion, and it was my opinion before even running this test, but this just affirms it, Magpul Gen 3 mags, especially these super sick looking ones that they did for the Marines, 100% good to go. I would definitely feel comfortable stocking them up. And on top of that, let me grab something real quick. The Gen 3 ones do come with these little dust covers. So if you are concerned at all about wearing out these feed lips, which I don't think will happen, you can go ahead and just lock this dust cover on there with a loaded magazine. Takes all the pressure off those feed lips, so you can still store these long term in confidence, and then they're super easy to just pop back off, and then you're ready to rock and roll. So again, hopefully you were able to get something out of this video. I'm going to put links to the other 2 tests that I've done so far, again with the Lancer L5s and one of the Hex mags. So far, again, the Hex mag has performed the worst, which is to be expected. But interesting results nonetheless here. I'm definitely happy with what we saw today out of this thing. So, oh. Actually, I just noticed something. I'm glad I noticed it before we stopped rolling here. There's a little tiny fracture that's forming on the spine of this magazine. I don't know how that could ever possibly affect function. However, I am seeing this now. I don't know when that happened because I'm not noticing it until now. My guess would be when it got run over. But that's interesting. I did not notice that before. I'm going to go ahead and take a close-up picture of this so you guys can see for yourselves. But that's interesting. I hadn't noticed it. Little tiny microfracture right back here where the spine meets the body of the magazine again. I would still feel comfortable in using this, but that's interesting. So that's not something I had to deal with the Lancer mag that I ran over or shot or did anything else to. And I don't know if it would do this again if I were to do the same exact test again, but I'm going to let you guys see that and make that determination for yourself. I'm still going to say these are good to go. I still own a lot of these, and I plan on buying more of these, although my main kind of go-to magazine has been the Lancer mag, and you know, I probably feel just as comfortable with these as I do with those, but that's interesting. Didn't notice that little fracture before, so again, you can make that determination for yourself if that's going to be a deal breaker for you. But again, I'll have links to all the other videos. Try to pick up where I left off before I noticed that. If you want to see more videos like this, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing some more of these magazine torture tests here soon. RageQuit 003, again, the guy who bought these mags for me, supplied me with a couple other mags. I got a couple Daniel Defense mags, the 32 round mags, as well as some Troy Industries mags. Which I'm glad he bought those because I would never have bought them myself, and I'll probably have to wear gloves throughout that entire test so I don't taint myself with Troy Industries, but I do plan on doing the same exact type of testing with those mags. So again, if you like this, subscribe to my channel so you see those when those go up. Hopefully I'll be able to get to them rather soon. If you are at all interested, I do have a Patreon, which is how I'm able to buy ammo for tests like this. The people who are over there get exclusive content as well as seeing all my videos early. So if you do with that information what you will, but I definitely appreciate the people who support me there on Patreon. It's also the best way to get a hold of me and guarantee getting an answer, because I try to do my best with the comments here, but it's hard to keep up with them all the time. But anyway, with all that said, as always, I hope you're able to get something out of this video. The mosquitoes definitely want to see me, but I appreciate you watching.